You're home. Ty Vance, wearing gray sweatpants and lounging on my sofa, gave me a casual wave. I nodded and set my keys on the counter. He's watching the game here tonight. My girlfriend, Chloe, said, her tone perfectly natural. You don't mind, do you? Ich glänzte her. I don't mind. She paused, visibly surprised. In the past, I would have frowned. I would have gone silent. I would have been unhappy. But tonight, I didn't say a single extra word. In that moment, I suddenly understood something. When a man stops getting jealous, it's not because he's become open-minded. It's because he's finished packing and is ready to leave. When I got off work, the sky was completely dark. The lights on the first floor of the office tower were still blazing. As I swiped my badge to exit, the moment the elevator doors slid shut, my shoulders finally slumped. Another night of overtime until 9:30. The project plan changed at the last minute. Waves of people had left the department, leaving only me and a few humming computers. My name is Mark Sullivan, 28 years old, a project execution lead at a mid-sized firm in Chicago. It wasn't exactly prestigious, but at least it was stable. How stable? Stable enough that I hadn't felt a real emotional spike in a long time. On the way back to the apartment, I bought a bottle of water at the corner store downstairs. When I opened the cooler door, the blast of cold air hit my face, sobering me up a little. When I slid my key into the lock, I could hear the TV. Pushing the door open, I saw the scene in the living room. Two people were sitting on the couch, Chloe and Ty. Chloe was my girlfriend, a leasing manager at a downtown mall. Her job wasn't easy, and she loved to dress up. Ty was her guy best friend. They'd known each other for over a decade, apparently friends since their school days. Right now, they were sitting side by side. A comedy special was playing on the TV, the laughter track loud. Ty was wearing only sweatpants, shirtless, sunk deep into the cushions with a posture so casual he looked like he was in his own home. I stood in the entryway for 2 seconds, saying nothing. Ty noticed me first, looked up and smiled. You're back. Pretty late today. His tone was natural, familiar, too familiar. I nodded, kicked off my shoes, and gave a noncommittal grunt. Chloe looked back at me, then quickly turned her eyes back to the TV, saying offhandedly, There's food in the kitchen. Heat it up yourself. Her tone was as routine as if she were assigning a daily chore. I acknowledged her, dropped my bag, and walked into the kitchen. Inside the rice cooker was half a bowl of rice, already drying out around the edges. I didn't heat it. I cracked open my water, drank a few mouthfuls, and leaned against the counter for a while. Honestly, I wasn't unfamiliar with this scene. In the beginning, it made me uncomfortable. I used to subconsciously check how close they were sitting, notice if Ty was shirtless again, wonder what they talked about before I got home. Later, after it happened enough times, my emotions were ground down to dust. Now, seeing it, I just felt habit. I walked back to the living room. Ty had already stood up, grabbing his hoodie from the sofa. I'm heading out, he said. Early start tomorrow. Chloe nodded and stood up to walk him to the door. They stood very close while talking, their voices lowered, as if afraid of disturbing me, or as if they hadn't given me a second thought. The door closed, and the apartment suddenly fell quiet. Chloe turned around and looked at me. Her gaze lingered on my face for 2 seconds, her brow furrowing slightly. Why haven't you been jealous lately? The question came out of nowhere. I was drying my hair with a towel, my movements didn't stop, and I didn't look up. Haven't you always said he's just your best friend? My tone was flat. You guys have a platonic friendship. I believe you. When the words left my mouth, even I felt surprisingly calm. Chloe froze, as if she hadn't expected that answer. She pursed her lips, her expression complicated. I couldn't tell if it was disappointment or something else. She didn't reply. She turned and went into the bathroom. The sound of running water started quickly. I sat on the sofa. The TV was still on, the screen flickering, but none of it registered in my brain. Before, when she showered, I would unconsciously glance over, waiting for her to come out. Now I didn't. When the water stopped, she came out wrapped in a towel, her hair still dripping. She walked up to me, stood there for a moment, then suddenly bent down, getting very close. Mark, she said my name. I smelled her body wash, a familiar scent. The next second, I raised my hand and gently pushed her away. The motion wasn't aggressive, but it was definitive. Her expression changed instantly. What is that supposed to mean? Her voice turned cold. I looked up at her, my tone remaining mild. Work has been crazy these past few days. I am exhausted. Give me a minute. That was part of the truth. She stared at me for a few seconds, as if judging whether I was lying. Finally, she said nothing, turned, and went into the bedroom. The door slammed shut loudly. I sat alone in the living room. The light from the TV reflected on the walls, making the apartment feel even emptier. In that moment, I realized something very clearly. So this is what not caring feels like. After the bedroom door slammed, The only sound left in the apartment was the background noise of the TV. I turned it off, took a quick shower, and lay down on the other side of the bed. Chloe had her back to me. Her breathing was heavy. She was obviously not asleep. The lights were out. In the darkness, neither of us spoke. This kind of silence rarely happened before. Previously, even if we fought, she would toss and turn, kick me, force me to speak first. This time, she didn't. The next morning, I woke up early. The sky was still dark, and I could hear the street sweepers outside. I got up quietly, changed, and got ready to leave. Just as I opened the front door, a voice came from behind me. "You don't even say good morning anymore." I looked back and saw Chloe sitting up in bed, her hair messy, her eyes cold. "You weren't awake," I said. She stared at me, clearly suppressing her anger. "Mark, do you think I've been too easy to talk to lately?" I paused, buttoning my coat. "What are you trying to say?" She got out of bed and stood in front of me. "What did you mean yesterday? Pushing me away? Did you do it on purpose?" I looked at her, not dodging the question. "I was tired. I didn't want to," I said. "It's not a big deal." She let out a cold laugh. "Nothing is a big deal in your eyes anymore. Me sitting with Ty isn't a big deal. You treating me like this isn't a big deal. So what is a big deal? Do I have to do something drastic to get a reaction out of you?" I frowned slightly. "Watch what you're saying." She froze, as if she hadn't expected me to say that. In the past, at times like this, I would mostly explain, cajole, take a step back. She was obviously waiting for me to take that step. But I didn't. The air grew rigid. After a few seconds, her tone softened slightly. "You've been really weird lately. You weren't like this before." "People change," I said. At those words, her face darkened completely. "So now you think I'm not good enough for you? Or do you think I'm doing something wrong?" She stepped closer, her tone accusatory. "I'm tired enough from work every day, and you're giving me attitude?" I looked at her, suddenly feeling this conversation was familiar. Every time she felt guilty, she would project the responsibility onto me first. "I'm not giving you attitude," I said. "I just don't have the energy I used to." She stared at me for a while, then suddenly turned around. "Fine. You're busy. You're tired. I won't bother you." She walked in the bathroom, and the door slammed again. I stood there, put my keys in my pocket, and walked out. The morning rush hour on the L train was crowded as always. People pressed against people. The air was stifling and stale. Yet, I felt unusually clear-headed. At noon, Chloe sent me a message. "Come home early tonight. We need to talk." The tone seemed normal. I replied with a single word. "Okay." When quitting time came, I left the office on the dot. Back at the apartment, the place had been tidied up. The floors were mopped clean. There wasn't even a water ring on the coffee table. Chloe was sitting on the sofa. She had changed her clothes, and her makeup was meticulously done. She rarely looked this formal at home. "Did you eat?" she asked. "I ate." She nodded, as if mentally preparing herself. "Mark, we can't go on like this." I sat opposite her, waiting for her to continue. "You've been too cold to me lately. It's not that we aren't fighting, it's that you don't care." She looked at me, a hint of urgency in her eyes. "If you're unhappy, you can say it." I leaned back against the sofa, my voice steady. "I have nothing to say." Her expression stiffened. "How can you have nothing to say? You don't get jealous. You don't argue. You don't touch me. What am I to you exactly?" I looked up at her. "My girlfriend." "Then what about Ty?" she pressed. I didn't answer immediately. She thought I was hesitating, and her voice instantly became shrill. "You do mind him?" I shook my head. "It's not that I mind. I'm just used to it." When those words came out, she was visibly stunned. "What do you mean?" "Nothing," I said. "Whatever your relationship is, that's your business." She stared at me, as if checking if I was acting out of spite. "You weren't like this before." Before was before. She fell silent for a few seconds, then suddenly stood up. "The way you are now. It's really hurtful, you know that." "Then have you ever thought about why I became like this?" When I said that, the room fell silent. She opened her mouth, but didn't respond. In that moment, I knew clearly. It wasn't that she didn't know. She just wasn't willing to admit it. "I'm going to shower." She dropped the sentence and turned into the bathroom. The water started running. I sat on the sofa, looking at the closed door. I felt no anger, no loss. Just a very clear sensation. This apartment, for the first time, felt empty to me. After that day, life seemed to return to normal. We went to work as usual, slept in the same bed as usual, left together, and came home separately. But some things had quietly changed. I woke up earlier than before. There were signs someone had used the kitchen. The stove was still warm, and a bowl sat in the sink. Chloe was sitting at the dining table, looking down and replying to messages, a hint of a smile on her lips. "There's oatmeal in the pot," she said. "Help yourself." I walked over and took a look. The oatmeal was freshly made, still steaming. Next to it sat a plate with a fried egg and 2 slices of toast. Just as I was about to sit down, she added a sentence. That plate is for Ty. He's coming by to pick up some files later. My movement paused. Have you eaten? I asked. Only then did she look up at me. Oh, I'll eat at the office. She said it casually, as if it were a trivial matter. I didn't say anything else. I put the spoon back, grabbed my bag, and walked out. The moment the door closed, I suddenly realized something. She hadn't asked me if I had eaten or if I was tired in a long time. During my lunch break, my phone buzzed. It wasn't her. It was a colleague messaging about work. Chloe didn't contact me all day. When I got home after work, she was the only one there. She was sitting on the sofa, scrolling through her phone. Hearing the door open, she glanced up. You're back. Yeah. I changed my shoes and walked in. There was a boba tea on the table with a straw in it. Ty just left. It's leftover. You want it? She asked. I looked at the cup, the condensation gone, the drink no longer cold. No. She shrugged and pushed the cup aside. Suit yourself. I sat down and opened my laptop to deal with some work. Her phone was sitting on the coffee table. The screen lit up. I subconsciously glanced at it. She immediately reached out and flipped the phone face down. The movement was fast. What are you looking at? Her tone was tight. I wasn't looking, I said. She stared at me for 2 seconds, as if verifying. Then, she looked down, unlocked it, and thrust the screen in front of my face. If you want to look, look. The screen showed her chat list, completely clean. I didn't take it. Forget it. Her expression stiffened, and she pulled the phone back. In that instant, I suddenly remembered a detail. Last weekend, when Ty came over, she sat next to him, laughing as she handed him her phone to help pick a restaurant. Her movements had been natural, without a hint of hesitation. While getting ready for bed, I stood at the sink brushing my teeth. Chloe walked past me, carrying that familiar scent. Why are you always zoning out lately? She asked. Lots of work? I mumbled. She didn't press it and went into the bedroom. The lights went out, but I couldn't sleep. My mind felt like it was being slowly unfolded, not by a single event, but by a pile of fragmented images. Her coming home late from overtime, but telling Ty beforehand. Her being in a bad mood and finding Ty to vent. She said less and less to me, but could talk to him until late at night. It wasn't that I hadn't noticed. It was just that before I always made excuses for her. Now those excuses suddenly couldn't stand up. The next day was Saturday. For once, I didn't have to work overtime. When I got up, Chloe wasn't home. There was a sticky note on the table. Went to the mall with Ty. Call if anything. The handwriting was hasty, like she was in a rush. I put the note back and poured myself a glass of water. The apartment was quiet. So quiet that for the first time, I seriously observed the place. I bought the sofa, I assembled the bookshelf, I watered the plants on the balcony. But in this home, I looked more and more like a temporary tenant. When she came back in the afternoon, she was carrying shopping bags, looking in good spirits. Dinner together tonight? She asked. No, I said. Meeting a co-worker. She froze. You usually don't go out on weekends. I want to go out now. She didn't say anything else and put her things in the bedroom. During dinner, my co-worker asked how I was doing lately. I thought about it and said I was okay. I really was okay. No insomnia, no rage, no breakdown like I imagined. Just slowly putting some things down. It was late when I got home. Chloe was asleep, facing away from the door. I lay down without touching her. In the darkness, I suddenly realized something. If one day I stopped appearing, no one in this home might notice anything wrong for a long time. When this thought surfaced, I actually felt relieved. Turns out some relationships don't end suddenly. They dissolve bit by bit in the neglected details. Changes didn't appear all at once. I stopped accommodating her schedule. If she came back late, I slept. If she went out on weekends, I made my own plans. No arguing, no asking. When leaving in the morning, I stopped detouring to drop her off. She stood in the entryway putting on shoes and suddenly looked up. Aren't you going my way today? Running a bit late, I said. She looked at me, but didn't press further. When I got home at night, I was mostly in the study. Door closed, working or reading. She stood at the door several times, looking like she wanted to speak but stopping. When I looked up, she would turn and walk away. One day, she unexpectedly messaged me. Dinner together tonight? I was in a meeting at the office. I saw it, but didn't reply immediately. When the meeting ended, I replied, might be late. She quickly replied, okay. When I got home, dinner was ready. She was wearing an apron, standing in the kitchen. Wash up first, she said. Her tone was gentle but forced. I did as asked and sat down to eat. She sat opposite me, barely touching her chopsticks. Is work really stressful lately? She asked. It's okay. Do you want to switch to an easier project? Not for now. She nodded and fell silent again. After a while, she spoke again. Do you have a problem with me? I looked up at her. Why do you ask? I feel like you're avoiding me. I thought for a moment. Not avoiding, just busy with our own things. She was clearly dissatisfied with this answer. It wasn't like this before. I didn't respond. After dinner, I cleaned up the dishes. She stood aside, watching me. Let's go out this weekend, she said. We haven't gone out together in a long time. We'll see, I said. Her brow furrowed noticeably. Before, you would have promised in advance. I placed a bowl in the rack. Now, I'm not sure. That night, she actively leaned in close. Her hand rested on my arm, her movements stiff. Mark, she whispered my name. I didn't push her away, but I didn't respond either. She sensed it quickly, and her hand slowly retracted. The air instantly became quiet. The next day, Ty came over very early. I was just getting ready to leave, and he was already sitting in the living room, dressed neatly, but it seemed a bit deliberate. Mark, morning, he greeted with a smile. Morning. Chloe was busy in the kitchen, glancing over now and then. Ty suddenly spoke up. You've been busy lately? I feel like I never see you. Lots of work scheduled, I said. He laughed. True, you've always been a grinder. There was something indescribable in his tone. Chloe came out carrying coffee. Don't keep saying that, she said to Ty. He's under enough pressure. Ich glänzte her. She rarely stuck up for me like that. Ty's smile froze for a second before recovering. I'm just showing concern. He got up to leave, giving me a glance before he went. There was a hint of impatience in his eyes. After the door closed, Chloe stood there. Don't overthink it, she said. He's been in a bad mood lately. I didn't think anything. She stared at me for a while. Are you really okay? Yeah. She clearly didn't believe me. That night, she talked a lot, asking about my project progress, asking about my colleagues, asking if I wanted to change jobs. I responded to each one, but kept my distance. The more she asked, the more anxious she got, like she was verifying something. Before sleep, she suddenly grabbed me. Not hard, but with intensity. Do you not want me anymore? When she asked this, her voice trembled slightly. I looked down at her, not answering immediately. The room was very quiet. Her hand slowly loosened, and for the first time, her eyes revealed panic. After Chloe asked that question, neither of us spoke again. She didn't press for an answer. She just turned over, putting her back to me. I lay on the other side of the bed, eyes open until late. The next day was Saturday. She got up earlier than I did, moving quietly around the bedroom, getting ready. I heard her on the phone, voice lowered. I didn't need to guess who it was. A while later, she walked in. Let's go out for lunch together, she said. Ty is coming too. I looked at her. I thought we were going out, just us. She paused. He's nearby, and he happens to be free. Her tone was natural, as if stating something perfectly reasonable. I didn't object. Some things you won't completely understand until you see them with your own eyes. We met at a restaurant near the mall around noon. Ty was already there, sitting by the window. Seeing us, he raised a hand in greeting, a smile on his face. You guys got here fast. Chloe naturally sat down next to him. I sat on her other side. When the menu came, she barely looked at it before ordering a few dishes. You love this one, she said to Ty. Then she remembered me. What about you? You want to order anything else? Whatever, I said. During the meal, the conversation revolved almost entirely around them. Ty talked about switching gyms. Chloe listened intently, interjecting occasionally. I chimed in every now and then, my presence minimal. The waiter brought the wrong dish. This isn't. I started to speak. Chloe cut in before I could finish. It's fine, leave it. He'll eat this. When she said he, she meant Ty. My words stopped in my mouth. The waiter looked at me, hesitating. Chloe added, it doesn't matter. Her tone was certain. In that moment, it felt like something gently pricked my heart. It didn't hurt. It brought clarity. Halfway through the meal, Ty's phone rang. He answered, and his expression changed. I have to go handle something, he said. Chloe immediately stood up. I'll go with you. I looked at her. Aren't we having lunch? She looked back. He has an emergency. What about me? I asked. She hesitated for a second. Finish eating and head back yourself. When she said this, it was so natural, as if this arrangement was simply matter of course. They left quickly. I sat alone in the restaurant and finished the rest of the food. The taste was actually fine. It was just a bit hard to swallow. When I returned to the rental apartment, it was empty. I stood in the living room and looked around. Sofa, coffee table, TV. Everything was in its original place. But suddenly, I felt like this wasn't where I was supposed to be. I walked into the bedroom and opened the closet. I didn't have many clothes, so packing was quick. 2 jackets, a few changes of clothes, a spare pair of shoes, and toiletries. I put everything into my suitcase without hesitation. Chloe came back very late. The moment she walked in, she saw the suitcase. Her face changed instantly. What are you doing? Packing some things, I said. She walked over and grabbed the handle of the suitcase. You're leaving? Staying somewhere else for now, I said. Her fingers tightened. What? I looked up at her. Back at the restaurant. Didn't you feel like something was wrong? She froze. You're obsessing over those little things again. It's not a little thing, I said. Her voice suddenly spiked. Then what do you want me to do? He had an emergency. Could I just ignore it? You can have, I said. You didn't have to drag me into it. She was momentarily speechless. Mark, you've changed, she whispered. Yes. This answer stunned her completely. You wouldn't have forced me like this before. Before I would retreat, I said. Now, I don't want to. Her eyes were rimmed with red. You're just leaving like this? Without giving me a single explanation? I pulled the suitcase towards me. The explanation, you actually know it in your heart. She stood there and didn't try to stop me again. I found a short-term sublet near my company. Not big, 1 bedroom, simple furniture, but quiet. When I put my luggage down, it was almost 11 o'clock. I took a shower and lay on the bed, but couldn't sleep immediately. My phone screen lit up. It was Chloe. Where are you? I glanced at it and didn't reply. 10 minutes later, another one. Can we talk properly? I placed the phone face down on the table. First thing the next morning, I went to work on time. The project was entering a critical phase, and there was a lot to do. I spent the whole day shuttling between meetings and coordinating, with almost no time to get distracted. At lunch, my phone buzzed again. Still Chloe. Why aren't you answering my calls? I replied. Busy. She quickly replied. So you're too lazy to even fake it now? I didn't reply again. When I got off work, the sky had darkened. Just as I walked out of the office building's main doors, I saw her standing by the curb. No makeup, hair a bit messy, very different from her usual self. Mark, she stopped me. I halted. How did you know I was here? Ty said your office was nearby, she said, then immediately added. I didn't ask him specifically. I nodded. Something up. She choked on my sentence. Do you have to talk to me like that? How do you want me to talk? I countered. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You just moved out like that, leaving me there alone? You aren't alone, I said. Her expression shifted. What does that mean? Literal meaning. She stared at me, her eyes starting to turn red. Do you think it doesn't matter to me if you're gone? I looked at her, not answering immediately. I just think you adapted faster than I imagined. The words were like a needle. Her breathing became rapid. Do you know I didn't sleep at all last night? That's your business. She took a step back, as if realizing for the first time that I really wasn't giving way. You become very cold, she said. It's just that you used to think I was too warm. With those words, silence fell completely between us. She stood for a long time, and finally said nothing, turning and walking away. The next day, Ty called me. I looked at the screen, hesitated, then answered. Mark, let's meet, he said. No need. Some things need to be said clearly. I thought about it. Fine. We met at a coffee shop near the office. He arrived early, sitting in a corner. Seeing me, he stood up, his smile a bit forced. You've been busy lately. It's okay. I sat down, skipping the pleasantries. He was silent for a moment, then spoke first. Chloe hasn't been in a good state the last 2 days. You can keep her company, I said. He frowned. Don't talk like that. Then how do you want me to talk? He paused at my question. You shouldn't drag me into your fight. I looked at him. You've been in it the whole time. His expression stiffened noticeably. We're just friends. However you define it, I don't care, I said. But you looking for me now isn't appropriate. He got a little agitated. You leaving like this isn't fair to her. Then me staying, is that fair to me? That silenced him completely. He looked down, stirring his coffee, and after a good while said, I'm just afraid she'll get hurt. Will you take responsibility for that? He looked up at me. His eyes flickered. You know that's not what I mean. Exactly, I stood up. If you can't give her that, stop asking for it on her behalf. When I left the coffee shop, the weather was fine. My phone lit up again. It was Chloe. What did Ty tell you? I replied with 2 words, nothing much. She immediately called. I didn't answer. Minutes later, she sent a voice message, then retracted it, followed by text. Do you have to force my hand like this? I stared at that line for a long time. Then I replied 1 sentence. I'm not forcing you. That night, she didn't contact me again. The 3rd day, she suddenly appeared at my place. When the doorbell rang, I had just finished cooking. Opening the door, she stood there, dark circles under her eyes. You moved fast, she said. Temporary, I said. She walked in, looking around. It's pretty clean. Something you need? She sat down, twisting her fingers together. I've thought a lot these past 2 days. Did you figure it out? I asked. She looked up, but her eyes were evasive. I'm just used to having Ty around. But you're different. I looked at her, not interrupting. I can keep my distance from him, she said. As long as you come back. She said it fast, like she was afraid I'd refuse. I put down the glass of water in my hand. You're saying this now because I'm not there. Her face went pale instantly. You didn't care before. That was before. She opened her mouth, suddenly panicked. Mark, do you really not want me anymore? I didn't answer directly. The way you are now. It's messy. Her tears finally fell. You weren't like this before. I stood up, walked to the door, and opened it. Go home. She looked at me, realizing for the first time that I wouldn't soften again. When she left, her steps were slow. After the door closed, the apartment returned to quiet. I sat back in a chair. I knew one thing clearly. Without me there, the balance between them had already begun to collapse. When Chloe asked to meet, her tone was calm. No crying, no accusations. She just said she wanted to clear the air. The location was a small bistro we used to go to, not far from the old apartment. I agreed. When I arrived, she was already sitting inside. There were 2 glasses of water on the table, and the seat opposite her was empty. Just as I sat down, I realized Ty was there too. He was sitting on the inside corner of the booth, deliberately avoiding eye contact, clearly uncomfortable. Chloe glanced at me. I asked him to come, she said. Better to say some things face to face. I nodded, offering no objection. The food arrived quickly, but no one touched their utensils. The atmosphere was quieter than I expected. Chloe spoke first. Mark, I've thought about it. The problem between us isn't just him. She glanced at Ty as she said this. Ty looked down, not responding. You've always been steady, able to handle things, she continued. I got used to you being my backstop. I listened, not interrupting, but I never thought you'd actually leave. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was tight. After you left, I realized there was no one to cover for me anymore. I raised my eyes to her. Those things weren't supposed to be covered by me alone anyway. She was silent for a moment. I know what you minded, she said, but I never intended to cross the line. Crossing the line isn't about intent, I said. It's about action. The words weren't heavy, but they were clear. She opened her mouth, but didn't argue. Ty couldn't help but cut in at this point. Mark, saying that isn't fair. I've known her for so many years. We can't just cut ties. I turned to look at him. I didn't ask you to cut ties. I just withdrew. He froze. But you doing that puts all the responsibility on her. The responsibility was already on her, I said. I didn't create it. His face looked grim. You weren't someone who kept score like this before.